Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Wendell Board of Commissioners. I want to welcome everyone that's here tonight. Came out. Looks like we're going to have a little storm, so thank you for being here. First, Police Chief Bill Carter is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight is brought to us by Pastor Asa Bell of Pleasant Grove Baptist Church. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's nice to see you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the Board of Commissioners. I am the pastor of Pleasant Grove. I thank you for the invitation to be here tonight. Very briefly, Pleasant Grove is a historic church, 154 years old this year, serving in ministry in this community. I want to extend an invitation since we're right at the end of 3rd Street, just outside of your city limits of Wendell. I would extend an invitation to you on Sunday mornings to come and visit us. Our service is at 10 o'clock a.m. and we would love to have you. As we prepare to pray, let us go to God. Dear Heavenly Father, we bow before you this evening and we thank you for the opportunity to serve others even as we serve you. You've shown yourself continually loving. You've shown yourself to be full of compassion and to be full of mercy. Help us to reflect your mercy, your compassion, and your love in our treatment of each other. I ask you to bless these leaders, God, that have been placed in positions of authority and of power. Give them your wisdom so that every decision that they make, every idea that they consider, God, will be pleasing in your sight and will further your principles and your priorities. I ask your blessings not only upon them, but I ask your blessings upon their families, upon their associates, and God, upon this town of Wendell. May Wendell bring you glory. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you again for being with us tonight. For our public comment period, is there no adjustment to the agenda tonight? Anybody have an adjustment? Have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Now public comment period. We have one person signed up, Ms. Carol Hannett.
Thank you, Mayors and Commissioners. If you all have never heard Reverend Bell speak, please take the opportunity to hear him other than an invocation. I'm here tonight to talk about the Wendell 4th of July and to thank the town of Wendell for its financial support and more importantly for its support of its personnel. The town manager, the police department, Parks and Recreation, and Public Works all worked with us so beautifully to make it a very exciting event. And I just want everyone to know, if you weren't able to be there, we had around 600 people, and the biggest complaint I had was people asking me why we had to have it in July when it was so hot. And that is a good question, but that's just the way life goes. But I do thank everyone involved. We had employees with spouses who have taken on responsibility to help with this, and it just turned out to be a very good event, and I do appreciate all the help from the town of Wendell. We hope this will be an ongoing event, and we know we can always depend on the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Item number 4 is a discussion of resolution for the 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule. We'll hear from Ms. Scoggins.
All right, Mayor and Board of Commissioners, before you this evening is your 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule. and it also includes the upcoming 2018 Town Board Retreat, and this is for your review and consideration this evening.
Have y'all had a chance to take a look at it? Any questions for Ms. Scoggins? Just so everybody understands, there's a few times on here where there's a Monday, and if there's, I know we have a lot of town meetings on Mondays, those automatically go to Tuesday. Is that pretty much? No.
If we have a holiday, yes,
Holiday on a
ma'am.
Monday, yes. I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
ma'am.
wasn't clear. If there's a holiday on a Monday, that meeting will go to Tuesday, just so everyone knows.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Only one meeting in December.
right, let me see. Yes, only one in December. The day of the week aren't on here, but I did look on my calendar, there was a couple landed on a Monday. So can I get a motion to approve the 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2018 Board of Commissioners meeting schedule.
We have a motion to approve it, is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Item number five is discussion and action on revisions to the Town of Wendell Large Business Economic Development Incentive Policy. Mr. Bergmark, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. So I just briefed you on this at the last meeting, but following that, had some discussions about whether or not we could possibly move forward with just the large business incentive policy portion of this. There seemed to be a lot more questions and uncertainty about the downtown incentives, the draft proposals that were made up. We do currently have a large business incentive policy in place, and one of the concerns about that was that the threshold was so low at being at $1 million under the current policy. So the changes in the proposal for the large business economic development incentive policy was to increase that threshold to the $5 million mark. Changes its payout, where it pays out over 4 years rather than 5, but does scale down in that percentage somewhat. But you have the information about how ours compares to some other jurisdictions. So again, we wanted to bring this back before you, see if you were comfortable with moving forward with the large business incentive policy, as well as we do currently have a small business incentive policy that only gives very small, basically fee reductions for certain things where you might save $200, $400. We've talked about how we don't find that to really be effective, and it's not going to incentivize anyone to actually do anything. And it's just administratively a little bit of a burden as well. So what we're asking tonight is whether you're comfortable with adopting the proposed large business incentive policy, as well as just rescinding the current small business. And then if there was a desire to explore other avenues for downtown or something else in the future, we could always explore that. I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bergmark? What do y'all want to do?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt a large business incentive policy as staff recommended and rescind the small business policy.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion to adopt the large business policy that was recommended by staff and to rescind the current small business policy. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Item number 6 is the discussion by the town board on the continuation of the snapshot. I believe we're going to have Boyette talk a little bit about that.
My only comment about it was,
Okay.
I think this came about because we agreed that after 6 months or so, that we would look back and see how this was working for everybody.
Okay.
I have found it very helpful to be able to see not only how the finances are going, but how ongoing projects, they've kept those projects in front of us, like the basketball goals and a couple of the other things that have been on there, painting the park, the lunch hours at the police station, things like that. We put items on, crossed them off, and moved them on. I think it's been good, and anyone else has any input on it or ways to improve it?
I personally have found it very helpful. And being a little old-fashioned, I like the piece of paper. Sorry, I know y'all don't, but I do. So, but I can print it myself. So, what do y'all think? What would y'all like to, how would you want to move forward?
I'd like to continue to get a paper copy here at every, we're getting it at the work session, right?
Yes, yes. So monthly, yes.
So we only get it every other meeting.
Well, the first meeting.
First
meeting.
Yes. One of the items on there is one of the remaining items, the basketball goal. Of course, that has recently been installed. And we would like as staff, if we're going to continue to, and we had just some suggestions, it doesn't have to be those, but to have a new set of items that we could place on that list, it would help us.
Okay. Do y'all want to think about it, what you'd like to put on there next? And do you have some suggestions right now, top of your head?
I don't have a problem meeting with the manager or any of us and talking about things that we can put on there. Items we can move on and move on.
I tell you what, why don't we all email any items, just think about it, roll it around in our minds for a couple of days and email any items we'd like to be on there, and then we can put that list together and see where we are. Some of them will more than likely overlap anyhow. And go from there. And it might not hurt for us to make this a quick little agenda item once a month, to look at it, tend to it, take things off and add, you know what I'm saying? Because every now and then we go, do we need to take anything off? Let's just do it real quick. I think let's look at it once a month when we get it. Remove if we have something that's ready to come off.
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
Anyone who's not aware of what we might be talking about, we have a sheet that we came up with at one of our last work sessions, and it's just a quick overview called snapshots or goals, priorities, and strategies. But basically, it just shows where our revenues are at, where our expenditures are at, basically, once a month. What fund balance looks like, is it going up, is it going down? The debt balance is on there, so we have a better understanding of where the money is on a monthly basis. So when the budget comes up, we don't go, oh yeah, we understand that.
The tasks on here as
And
well.
then, that's right, and then on the back side, a lot of times we, as politicians are wanting to do, we start talking about something, and then as soon as everyone's satisfied that we're going to do something, it sort of can fall on the radar. And so we did this, items are put on here like, the police department being open at lunch, the bathrooms at the park getting repainted and being open every day, and things like that. And it just keeps us up to date on how those items are going, just on sort of smaller items. And then once they're completed or whatever, we just remove them from the list. And that's basically all this is. And I mean, it's a public record, and I'm sure we provided to anyone who would want to see it. It's just not a part of the regular agenda. But I just wanted to point that out for anybody who might not be aware of what we were talking about.
It's a working document that keeps us on task.
Yeah.
It keeps us all on the same page. All right. Item number 7 is discussion and action on a fee in lieu of sidewalk request for required sidewalk on the east side of South Hollybrook Road along the Groves of Deerfield subdivision. Mr. Bergmark?
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, tonight you're being asked to review a fee in lieu request submitted by Lucius Jones to pay a fee in lieu of sidewalk construction along Hollybrook Road. This was related to Groves of Deerfield subdivision, and more specifically Lot 58, which is at 200 Darecrest Lane. We do have in the UDO the ability for development is being required to put in certain infrastructure requirements, but there is a payment in lieu of installation that is allowed through the UDO. At our January 9th meeting, the board adopted the town of Wendell's fee in lieu of sidewalk construction policy. Per that policy, all fee in lieu of sidewalk construction requests are to be reviewed and decided upon by this board. It does list a number of items that can be used as justification for applying a fee in lieu of actually installing a sidewalk. If it's on a large lot, or if there's if the property can be developed for residential purposes with a density of less than 1 dwelling unit per acre, if there's no sidewalks in the vicinity and no sidewalks that are to be installed in the foreseeable future in the vicinity, if there's a stormwater drainage ditch or a similar public utility that would prevent the installation of the sidewalk, and neither of these two can be reasonably relocated to accommodate it. If there's severe topography that would require a retaining wall of 6 feet more in height to accommodate it, or if there's planned roadway construction, if you're going to expand a road in 2 years, you don't want to build this now and then tear it up in 2 years. And there is kind of also other things that could come up that you could consider as well, kind of a cover-all. The applicant has pointed to the severe topography in this case and drainage issues as justification for not installing the sidewalk along this stretch along Lot 58. I did include some pictures in your report that I'll bring up here in a moment as well in Attachment A. Also in Attachment B, you have a map that shows those portions of Hollybrook Road that are called to have sidewalk per their development plan. According to our policy that we adopted in January, the fee calculation is based on our fee schedule. And our fee schedule lists a price of $25 per linear foot. So based on that figure and the distance from the back of the Lot 58 to the curb on Darecrest Lane to bring it all the way up to the road, that'd be approximately 165 feet. That's just my measurement using IMAPs, but that should be reasonably close. The fee in lieu of sidewalk construction using that distance figure and the $25 per linear foot would be $4,125 using 165 feet. There was a sidewalk recently installed along the front of this lot on 158, and due to that, the applicant is requesting to pay a figure of $1,500 in lieu of the sidewalk construction along the side of this lot. He's actually dropped off a check here at Town Hall. We're just holding it for the meantime, barring whatever decision this board makes tonight. We do believe that there are some constraining aspects to this lot along Hollybrook Road that could provide grounds for considering a fee in lieu request. We also did want to note that while we're looking at the south side of Darecrest Lane, there's also sidewalk called for along Hollybrook Road opposite on the north side of Darecrest along an open space lot about 300 feet worth that's probably going to have a similar problem in terms of drainage. The applicant has not submitted a fee in lieu for that request yet, but we did want to just go ahead and bring that to your attention. So here's one of the photos. This is on the side yard of Lot 58. You're looking north towards Darecrest Lane in this case, and you can see kind of two drainage areas, one closer to the road and one a little bit closer to the lot. You're just seeing on the far right side of the picture, you're just seeing the edge of the driveway of the house that's been constructed there. This is the opposite side of Darecrest, so just on the other side of Darecrest Lane on the north, where you can see kind of the open space area and kind of a large drainage area there that would likely create some similar difficulties on that stretch. And on this map, you can see in orange the area that the applicant has requested to pay a fee in lieu for. In yellow is the area along that open space stretch that no fee in lieu request has been submitted, but staff does believe there could be similar difficulties. And in blue, there's an area that is 650 feet. That the applicant has indicated that for that stretch, he would just look to construct it along Hollybrook Road. So I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Brooklyn?
We had a couple. Mr. Burner, you included that the developer had recently put sidewalk along the front of the property.
Yes, that's correct.
Was it not required to be there?
It is required. Yeah, that is a requirement.
I was just trying to figure out why that was, if that had any bearing on the request for fee in lieu of. The portion that is the gap between what will eventually be there, so on this map, the blue and the yellow, do we know the distance of that?
I've not measured that, but you're probably looking at between 150 and 200 feet. I'm just comparing it to
Probably pretty close to 165 feet.
Probably fairly close to that.
So I know that I kicked this hornet's nest a year ago when we were trying to figure out how to we're trying to make sure that we use fee in lieu of money to actually pay for sidewalks. And I know that we're always going to find ways to work around things. Obviously we have a difference in the dollar amount. My goal was never actually the money, though, it's the amount of sidewalks we can get. Have we explored that option of finding another, for instance, I see that gap as being something that would be beneficial to the developer and the houses he sells, but any other straight piece of sidewalk that we can place somewhere if the developer feels he can do it at a lower price?
I think that gap would be good. However, in this case, whenever the developer was putting forth this plan, he dedicated additional right-of-way for those portions that he owned. So I don't think that we have the right-of-way in front of that one lot. So the sidewalk would be jolted out because we didn't get that additional 10, or it might even been 15 feet of additional right-of-way there. That doesn't mean we couldn't look at, we have looked at other possibilities. When we took the fee in lieu for that section in front of Old Wendell, we looked at some places where we could spend that money, and we did do some sidewalk installation on Wendell Falls Parkway, but we had other spots that we also considered that we thought would be reasonably easy places to install sidewalk. A couple examples: in front of the police station along 3rd Street, we looked at that. We looked along the town square. I'm sure you could find other examples, but we were looking for ones where you didn't have trees that would have to come up or utility poles in the way or things of that nature.
We seem to be hearing a whole lot about sidewalks. How many different developers have had an issue with sidewalks? Does anybody know right off the top?
I'll see a couple of, well, I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Old Wendell was one where we granted it. There's this request back a while ago. There was a complaint about in front of Foxborough, and that's why there's not a sidewalk there. Those are the only things that immediately come to my head.
Lardy, yeah.
Oh, yes. I was thinking residential, but yeah, Vardy.
David, how did we come up with that $25 per linear foot?
So we were looking at, it started off with looking at Raleigh's policy. Raleigh is a little bit different in that they actually break it down even further, where it's not just sidewalk installation. They'll have one fee for sidewalk installation, but then there's a separate fee for grubbing. There's a separate fee for grading. So you really have to kind of add a number of these things together to get what you have to do to actually put the sidewalk in. At this time when we were talking about this, we were doing some sidewalk work along Todd Street, and so we had the exact figure of what we spent, which I think was just over $20, I want to say. I don't remember if it was...
Grading required there, was there? That Todd Street spot.
Right, that was
I mean, that was nice and flat.
That was an easy spot.
Yeah.
So I think what happened is we came with that figure, which was just over 20, just over 20.
Right.
But then that was a pretty easy spot, so the board decided on 25 just to give a little bit more wiggle room in case you had some grading to do or some other issues you had to deal with.
We had discussed that was kind of an average, because there were going to be times when it was going to be more, and there were going to be times when maybe it might be a little bit less.
So with the topographical issues that are claimed to exist at this site, how did the developer arrive at a figure so much lower for sidewalk installation than our figure? Market rate.
I will answer to the best that I can. I believe that it was based on a just per linear foot figure that he had been given by someone who installs sidewalks, that I think was $15 and some a foot, which for just installing the sidewalk and doing nothing else, that seems about right just based on what Raleigh stated, although I don't think that was based on 165 feet. I think it might have stopped where this is a corner lot, so where the property starts to curve, I think that figure might have stopped where it stopped being straight.
So another maybe 20 feet or something.
Yeah.
So the 1,500 figure that was quoted by the developer is not necessarily a quote for this particular project, it's just a quote for
flat.
A flat, okay.
Can I make an observation? As I understand the ordinance, the board's duty is to decide whether a fee in lieu will be allowed.
Right.
But the amount of the fee has been determined by adoption of a fee schedule. I think there's one issue for the board, and that is whether
Right.
to allow the fee in lieu.
That's what I was gonna say, Alan. I was just letting everybody else go first, but, to me, you have to decide, does it meet the justifications to get the fee in lieu of? And all, you know, to me, in this instance, I went out and looked at it, and I believe it does, in my opinion. And I think now the options are to pay the amount that, the $25. Now, I don't have a problem if y'all would like to amend our policy and figure out a way, because we are working through this, to let a builder put a sidewalk in themselves. Because they might could do it cheaper than we could hire a person to do it. But I don't have a problem with that. I think that it would need to be, the same length, installed in another area, chosen with agreement with the town staff and supervision of the town, and in the same time frame that the other sidewalk that we're allowing them to not build would have to be built in. You know, if y'all want to amend the ordinance to do that. And I do think, on another note, in this particular instance, it was mentioned about across the front of that house, it's not finished the whole way to the curb cut, and I do think the sidewalk needs to go to the curb cut. And it just stops, and the curb cut is on down beyond. So, you know, that's just something else for y'all to think about. But there's nothing in this, like the lawyer said, that leaves it open for us to negotiate the cost. There's nothing here that allows that.
So that, you have some notes? A couple of things, but go ahead. I've never been a real big fan of fee in lieu of. I think if it's at all possible that we should put things in where they've been required. I think it's the fairest thing to do to start with. However, another point that I think was brought up about the price per linear foot that the town has in its fee schedule was if we make it just like, you know, come right in where everybody's paying for sidewalk, then it's easier to write a check than it is to actually put in the sidewalk. And it was actually made a little higher, specifically
We want them
to
to
try
put
to,
it in where they're supposed to put
just go ahead and put in the sidewalk. And so I think that's another part of it. And while I understand the attorney saying that, you know, what the price is up for debate. When people come in to rent the community center, you know, it's not, well, here's what I'm willing to pay. It's, no, this is what we charge. So,
I agree.
I've never been a big fan of fee in lieu of. I've gone by that area, and there's quite the dip there. There's some other areas I think that have been worse than that, where sidewalk has been put in. But in this case, there are some issues with it, and so if that's what the board wants to do, but I think it would have to be done at the rate. And we worked long and hard on that fee in lieu of policy, and there were a lot of things that went into it, a lot of consideration, and so I don't think changing it right now is I don't think this is so complicated we need to change our policy over.
I understand. I just was gonna add a thing,
I understand.
consideration of another alternative.
And I would
But I
like-
do like it to be an exception, and I agree with you on that. It
Yes.
needs to be an exception, not a rule, for bad areas
And-
with real
and I would-
topographical problems.
And I would love it if the money, if we were to do this fee in lieu of, if we could leverage it somewhere, a property, if we could identify a property owner where the town sees a need for sidewalks, and, we agree, maybe to go in on cost sharing if a property owner would see that would benefit them. There've been several property owners who have stated they would love to have curb and gutter in sidewalks because of people pulling off the side or in certain areas of town. And so I think you could even find some areas where we could make, if we were to take fee in lieu of money for sidewalks, you could make it go even further. But that's outside the scope of this.
Yeah, and that, to me, that's down the road. Right now, I feel like we need to hit the big spots and connect the dots. For right
Right.
now, there's plenty of that we can do right now without getting too complicated. So, all right, Commissioner Joyner, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, no, I think that what we're discussing here obviously is very clear on, are we going to accept the fee in lieu? I think you accept the fee in lieu. as somebody that was intricately involved in helping write that part of that policy, the goal is more sidewalks. So if, I would be more than happy, and if we had thought of it at the time, I would have included it in the original policy, that if a developer can provide the same amount of sidewalk elsewhere, by us saying we think that you shouldn't put sidewalk there, I don't think we're ever gonna go back and do that because of the topography. But if I can get 165 foot of sidewalk in an area that we otherwise would have just said no sidewalks, then I think that that is a public-private partnership of sorts where we're working with developers and allowing them, and here's our rate at $25 because we don't buy a lot of sidewalks and this is what we know we can get it for. If you can do it cheaper, then as long as you give us the same distance of sidewalks, it's great. So I'm gonna make a motion to approve the fee in lieu of, for this section, obviously as written in the current policy, and it would also include allow staff to work out any sort of agreement that they would consider to be fair or in the spirit of that policy.
You don't think we need to, do they feel like they're authorized to do what you're suggesting?
No, not that big.
I don't know if they would be.
The only thing we're approving is the fee in lieu of or not.
Well, let's do that first, and then we'll talk about our ordinance. So you want to make a motion that we approve the fee in lieu of?
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the fee in lieu of. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right, now, you want to, do we need to amend the policy? Do we just tell the staff to handle it? I don't know that we need to be so wide open as that.
I mean, so my hope was to curtail that. So the fee in lieu of at the current rate, or by your, and let me add, since 165 foot about a solid number for you to the applicant. Is that?
I don't know, I think it was 132, but the Black Creek was running across, all the way across in front of that lot, I think.
Well, so I guess we.
Yeah.
I think that cuts out part of that too, but we'll, the lot, the width of that lot is 130.
The rate that we set it at is an attempt to protect us to be able to actually put sidewalks down with the money we collect. If the applicant has the ability to put the same amount of sidewalks in for less, I would certainly, whatever we need to do, give staff the authority to make those agreements work. I think that's a good step forward in allowing the planning department to have a little bit more discretion when dealing with issues like that.
So Mr. Cawley, do we need to amend our policy to allow the staff to?
I think you need to vote on that, have a formal vote on that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend our policy to allow staff to negotiate or work. How do you want to word it, Mr. Joyner? You got to be careful.
A motion to allow staff to work with the developer to reach an agreement
For them to install it.
Replacement sidewalk.
for replacement sidewalk at another location, alternatively, the fee in lieu of at our current rate schedule.
It's the same length and distance and within the same time frame of that as well. Okay, so is there any discussion on the motion?
Just for me, I would feel more comfortable with a formal change to that policy.
We need to send the motion.
I understand that, but, I mean, how does the attorney feel about that wording? Or does it leave anything open to interpretation?
I'm clear.
Okay.
Well, before we amend our policy, is that something the applicant is willing to do before we change our policies?
Yeah, I mean, I want Mel can talk.
He's asking to be recognized.
Pardon me, I can't hear you.
He's asking to be recognized.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I would be willing to work with you anyway. I think that where my problem is with that cost is $25 a foot. And it's not difficult. If you will do the math, this piece of sidewalk is
I figured it on that, the length of the lot was 130-something feet. Okay, if you'll say 5 times that, that'll give you the amount of square footage you've got of sidewalk. Okay, divide that by 81. It takes 1 yard of concrete to pour 81 square feet. So I pay $106 a yard, and then I pay the man $50 a yard to install it. So it's $156 per yard. So this particular project is going to take like less than 9 yards. And that's where, you know, when my people tell me what they're going to do it for, and then you're saying 25, I'm looking at like less than 15.
Well, that's the reason that it's like that is because there may be other places in town, and
Right.
we're not going to change the 25. I don't think that's what we're talking about today.
Okay.
What we're talking about right now is offering another alternative
Okay.
if you choose
Sure.
to take it.
Sure.
And that would be that you could do whatever the length of sidewalk is, several numbers have been
Right.
thrown out, in another place in town at your cost, and the time frame that you would have had to do it over here. Typically, you know, we need to go ahead and
Yeah,
get
if
it
you
done
find
that
a
time frame
place
and
that's, you know, that's
inspected
comparable.
to our satisfaction and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Okay.
so essentially, you're gonna build a sidewalk, but in another spot, and you can build it instead of giving us the 25 a foot and we have to build it. So all it is it's just creating another alternative in
Right.
the rare instance that we do a fee in lieu that a builder can, or
But-
developer can use.
Sure.
So
I'm
that's my
happy
understanding.
with that, but I feel like your $25 fee in lieu of is very excessive.
Well,
But
that's not what we're talking about today, but thank you for that.
And I'll amend my motion to say that we're adding a third option
Yes, it's an
as
alternative,
policy. So the initial option is you build a sidewalk where it is.
right?
The second option is that you pay $25 per linear foot
And we'll,
as written in the policy, and we'll handle it. And the third option is you work with the planning staff to come up with the same distance of sidewalk installed in an appropriate manner. And I will reflect our original intent. I don't think it's appropriate for us to hold developers to a higher standard than we hold ourselves. So when we adopted this policy, it was 6 months that the town had to put that sidewalk in from the date. So if we have a way of working that out where we can work with the developer on that, I don't want to see a CO held up on a whole subdivision of houses because we may be not as quick as the developer is. But to amend the policy to allow the developer to install an equal amount of footage in sidewalk in lieu of, fee in lieu of.
I just don't want it to get dragged out a long time and forgot.
But that's where we
I
got all started with this.
Making sure, Mr. Cole?
Point of clarification, and this may go to Commissioner Boyette's concern about details, but as I understand your motion, that third option only applies once the board has allowed fee in lieu to begin
Begin
with.
with.
Correct.
So we all good now?
Good.
Okay, so, let me try to restate it. So we have a motion now to allow developer to amend our policy to allow developers to install themselves comparable distance in the same time frame that we would have done had we done the fee in lieu. And they're going to work out the location and the details of that with town staff. Did I get it all in there?
Subject to
Approval of town staff. Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right.
I did want to make one other comment, just for information purposes, just to, we actually, because of this request coming in, we did not hold up this one CO. There are some other homes that are backing up to Hollybrook Road that would require sidewalk, as well as that open space lot. So what we had previously told the applicant was that, that before we issued the COs for any of those that backed up to Hollybrook Road, that they need to put in this stretch, which would include that open space lot. So I just want to point out that while we did already release that one CO, based on our prior conversation with the applicant, before those other ones that have the sidewalk along Hollybrook Road were put in, the amount of sidewalk along that open space would also be required.
He hadn't even applied for that yet, has he?
Correct. So I just want to make that
Well, that's
clear.
just another, he needs to come back in then.
Okay, I just want to make that
Come
clear.
back in, okay. All right. Item number 8 is an update on board committees, and tonight, Commissioner Joyner of the Fire Advisory Board.
Fire Board met last Thursday, discussed a couple new things. We're currently doing an internal hire for a new position that was allotted during the Wake County budget process this year. That will finally close the gap on Station 2's one shift of having 2 firefighters. So we finally have that. We also discussed the planning and budgetary requirements for the new station, as well as the position on the Wake County Fire Commission and the board's interest in that.
Thank you very much. Item number 9, Commissioner's report. Stay with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Got to enjoy a lot of fun in downtown Wendell over the past week and a half, 2 weeks. With the 4th of July, it was a great event. Thank you guys for putting that on, Historic Society. It was an unusual 4th of July. I've spent the last 7 of them in Florida, so it was nice to be home in Wendell with the cutest little girl in the world, in my personal opinion. Also, the fire board meeting and working on some other stuff around town. Very appreciative of the excitement that I've seen around town with the new boards, as well as people getting involved in other ways and finding ways to plug themselves in the window. The only other piece that I mentioned tonight is moving forward with both the Wendell substation issue and any other issue. All of our cell phone numbers are posted on townofwendell.com. I get a lot of messages via Facebook, or I'm told that I get a lot of messages via Facebook. I don't check Facebook. My cell phone number is listed on the town website. You can call me, text me, but cell phone is always the easiest way to get in touch with at least me.
Commissioner Boyd?
I'll agree with Commissioner Joyner. I often go to the town's website and make sure that my number is listed correctly on there, because there are only a few people who I ever hear from. There is a lot going on in Wendell. I missed the 4th of July celebration this year. I was helping family get moved into a new house out of town, and so I had to go help with that. But the weather's getting much too hot to do much of anything outside, and I would just remind people, please stay hydrated. Just a number of people falling out from dehydration and everything else, enjoying themselves too much is too high, and it even gets us. I like to think of myself as a young person, although I might be the oldest commissioner on the board. But yeah,
Who else is older than you?
no, I'm older than him by a month. Only 1 month, but I'm older than him by a month. Dehydration can sneak up on you in a hurry, and I would just remind people, please stay hydrated. Heard on the news, 17 days straight we've been over 90 degrees, and it puts a real strain on EMS. So I'll just throw that out there. That's all I have for tonight.
Commissioner Myrick?
I was not able to attend the 4th of July celebration, but thanks to the Historic Society, I hear you guys did another fantastic event, so thank you guys.
Commissioner Carroll?
4th of July was outstanding, a little warm. Next year, if we could have some misters, that'd be great. And I would like to speak a little bit further on the sidewalk piece and the UDO as a whole. These are what I would consider somewhat uncharted waters based off of the amount of development that has taken place since the UDO was passed, from what I understand, right in the heart of the recession. So as we work through these things, please keep in mind for, Wendell welcomes, construction and builders and developers and things of that nature, but we're also very concerned with the quality of product and the quality of life for our citizens. So as we guide ourselves through these things, we ask for your patience, and we also, just ask that you work with us in any way that, you can as we work with you. We're not trying to scare off development. We're just trying to make sure we get it right. So.
Thank you. I just have a few things. I want to congratulate Lehman Strickland at Strickland Jewelry Store. He's right now celebrating this week his 70th year of business here in downtown Wendell. So if you have a moment, I think he leaves every day at 2. You should stop in and talk to him and congratulate him on 70 years. His wife told me she'd only been there for 67 of them, but I feel like we need to thank her too. So be sure and stop and see Mr. Lehman and Miss Wilma. I recently attended the Bluegrass Picnic in the park at the town square this past Saturday. If you haven't been, you're really missing out. It's a wonderful family event, and I encourage you to go. Next month it'll be on August 12th from 5 to 7. It's free. Bring a picnic and a chair and sit out and enjoy your family. It's a nice, good time. I want to thank the Wendell Historical Society also for the 4th of July celebration. Their hard work, a lot of work goes into that. And again, I'll have once already, but the town staff, every department in the town of Wendell worked very hard for the 4th of July, as well as Wendell Baptist Church and Boy Scout Troop 515. So thank you to all of them. I recently attended the Genius Hour Showcase at Lake Myra Elementary School. I want to thank them for inviting me to that. This is the 3rd time I believe I've been. I was real impressed with the students and their projects. This is 5th graders getting ready to go to middle school here shortly. I'm sure they'll have a great year, and several of them are actually coming to Wendell Middle School next year. So I look forward to welcoming them to Wendell Middle School next year in 6th grade. Our Spring Into the Arts walk wrapped up after a lot of changes due to weather, inclement weather, and so forth. And it was very successful. I want to thank Patrick Reedy and the Parents Commission for their hard work on that. They raised a lot of money, and they do a lot of great things around town for y'all. And last, I want to urge you to please be patient this week with the Public Works guys. They're really going to be loaded up and probably be behind all week. So there's a lot of limbs and things down. Don't drive over them. Just leave them there. Please stack them the way they're supposed to be as best that you can, and they will get to it. So be patient with them and maybe take them a bottle of water and thank them. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're adjourned.